Here are my essential must-haves for sewing. Pins, clips, a marking tool that is easy to erase, measuring tape. This is going to be your best friend when you first start out. A small pair of scissors for cutting thread, and a scrap piece of fabric. We are going to learn the basics, the essentials to get you going. I forgot to show you. That's what it looks like. What we're gonna do is thread our bobbin. Mine is already threaded, but I will show you what you will need to do to thread it. You're gonna need a spool of thread. You're gonna put it on this right here, which I don't know what the name of it is right now, but you're gonna put it on there, and you're just gonna follow the guide. Right here, it's a circle. You're gonna put it in between that, and you're gonna bring it over to your bobbin. There's gonna be a hole on your bobbin, and you're gonna put the thread through that hole. This is what it should look like. Your thread is through that hole. Alright, and then you're gonna load it onto your bobbin winder, and you're going to snap it into place by pushing it over. Alright, and you're gonna hold that up, press on your presser foot, and it's gonna wind the bobbin for you. Alright, and now that you have your bobbin loaded, you take it out, and we're going to place this in the bobbin case down here on our machine. Alright guys, I did not have the correct bobbin for the machine, so I had to go get the proper bobbin. And that's also another tip: make sure you have the proper accessories for your machine, or it's not gonna work. And it's a little groove on the inside that you're gonna want to get your thread through. Under that, and then you bring it to the side and over here, and then you cut the thread simply by just pulling it. Put the case cover back on it, and you are almost ready to sew. So the next thing you're gonna want to do is thread your needle. Okay, so what we're gonna do is follow our guides, and it's gonna take us through here. We're not gonna use this right here that we used when we were winding the bobbin. We're going to go straight down. All right, so from there we're gonna go straight down, and then we're gonna go around, and then if your lever isn't all the way up, you want to put that up, and then you're gonna put it around that lever. It's a lever inside of there, and you want to put it around that hook and come straight down, and then you're going to thread the eye of your needle. So I'm just putting that through the hole. If it's not working for you, you can cut off the fuzzy part of the thread. Anyways, yeah, that's what you're gonna do. And then you're gonna put it under your presser foot. And alright, so what you need to know about the machine is it has little seam guides, and that is what you're going to line your fabric up with so that you can sew straight. With these seam gauges, you can use a piece of tape if it helps you to see where you need to line up your fabric with, but for me, I'm just going to use the seam gauge, and that's going to help us sew a straight line, which is the basics of sewing. You have to know how to sew a straight line to sew really anything. I mean, you can sew crooked, but it's going to show. So what you really want to do is get yourself acquainted with these seam guidelines here. We have the 3/8 inch, 1/2 inch, 5/8 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and so forth. You're mostly going to be working with either 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, or 5/8 of an inch. So it's really good to have a machine that has those markings. It also has a 1/4 inch, but it's really not that visible on my machine. For today's demonstration purposes, I will be using the 1/2" seam guide to align my fabric with. And you're just gonna put your piece of fabric under the presser foot. You're gonna line it up with your 1/2". I'm lining it right up with that seam gauge that tells me that it's a 1/2". So I'm ensuring that I'm getting a 1/2" of seam allowance, which is most likely what the pattern is going to require. So I was gonna make sure I have my seam allowance correct so that the garment fits how it's supposed to fit. So we line it up with that, and you can drop your needle, which is helpful. So put your needle in position, and you're going to slowly press on the presser foot. Actually, no. You are going to pick what stitch you want. For today's demonstration, we are going to use just a regular straight stitch. I'm going to do a basting stitch, which is a longer straight stitch, so I can just easily take it out if I need to. And that's what we're going to work with, and yeah, we're just going to go for it. And I'll show you how I line that up so that it's a perfectly straight seam. Alright, so I'm just looking at that seam gauge, making sure that my fabric is lined up with that. Do not watch the needle. That is the biggest beginner mistake that you can make, is watching that needle. It's just like driving. If you're watching the other side of the road, you're more likely going to drift to the other side of the road. That's what my dad taught me, and that is a good rule of thumb when you are sewing. You want to be looking at a guide, and that's what you want to follow. You don't want to look at your needle, because you're going to be sewing all over the place if you do. So you're looking at your guide, which is our 1/2", and we're just going to sew. I didn't backstitch because I was just doing a practice run, but ideally you do want to backstitch, and your machine will have a place that you will press, hold, or whatever that's going to allow you to backstitch. For me, it's this right here. Backstitching locks your stitch into place. So you want to backstitch at the beginning and the end of sewing. So I'll show you what that backstitch looks like. So you hold down the lever, or you push the button, whatever it is on your machine that allows you to backstitch. Hold that down and it just goes back. And then you can go forward one more time, and I like to go back one more time as well. And that is locking your stitch into place. Now you have the very basics to help you start to create your own garment. And you see how that line is straight, it's not wobbly. It's because we used our seam guidelines to make sure that our stitching was straight. And that is going to be your biggest thing that you want to practice. Don't start a project until you know how to sew a straight stitch. Honestly, it's going to save you a lot of headache. It's going to save you a lot of seam ripping using our best friend when we're a beginner, our seam ripper. It's going to save you a lot of headache using that. So you really want to practice on scrap pieces of fabric, and you want to just practice your straight stitches, and you just want to line it up to your seam guides so that you get that accurate stitching, so that you get the accurate seam allowance, and you make sure your garment is perfect. I hope this helped you, and I'm so excited that I finally got this video out for you guys. Have a great day.